Welcome to Hey Listen, where we discuss faith, leadership, and the mission of the church. We're so glad you've joined us. Now to today's episode. All right, today we're going to have a conversation about what faithfulness looks like in an ordinary life, which I think is so good because we live ordinary lives. So what does it look like to remain faithful in just our normal seasons of life?
I'm glad to hear you say you live an ordinary life.
He has something brewing.
No. I've never thought of my life as ordinary. I don't know. I'm glad.
I just think in the
I'm
scheme
so
of
happy
things,
for
don't we
you.
have ordinary lives?
Yes, I do. If we're going to, compare it to like the life of a circus performer, I would say we are very ordinary.
Perfect. Okay. Well, we are ordinary.
But I don't know. I feel like that the circus is kind of my life as a pastor. I've always kind of thought of non-pastor families as maybe more ordinary. So when you said that, I was just kind of, I don't know. When you said that, I was like, what? I didn't know we were going to start out this way. I don't know if I agree with that. Just scrap the whole podcast.
Okay, never mind. Moving on to the next topic.
No, we can do this.
Okay. I don't know where to go now.
Well, no. I think if you're talking about like the average person goes to work and they work hard and they come home and they fix dinner and you have church in the mix and things of that nature. Yes, that is very true. But I also think that sometimes we idealize that, and we're trying to find whatever normal or ordinary is, and maybe that's just not how you're geared,
sure.
and that's okay. But the key is faithfulness, right? That's what we want to talk about.
There we go.
Is regardless of what your ordinary is, are you being faithful? I guess that would be the question.
Yeah, and how often ordinary, maybe for a month and then the next month looks so different, or knowing that crisis happens and, what are we going to be, how are we going to remain faithful no matter what season we're in?
Well, what about this, Kayla? What if we turn ordinary into an idol?
Oh, absolutely.
And we
work so hard to keep it.
Right. And so when we don't get our ordinary, idols are devastating. When we don't get what we want, and when that idol isn't fed, we can be very upset. So I've noticed that, let's say we go through a season where we are able to have a good rhythm and cadence, as we've talked about before in these podcasts. And then that doesn't happen. We get bitter. We're, like, for instance, if it's because of an illness, we get bitter maybe because of that, or a job change with a spouse. And then all of a sudden now we're upset with him or her because, the pattern we had established that we were semi-comfortable with has been thrown upside down.
Right.
Jenny and our patterns are radically different because kids have moved out of the house, and empty nest for us. And so my wife takes pictures of our house, and puts them out there or whatever. And she took a picture the other day of our kitchen table, and it's just decorated, beautifully. But what I know is I haven't had a meal at that table in months because it's so pretty. Yeah. So I wrote on the Facebook post, like, I remember having meals there once. It looks so familiar. Like, I remember a time, and I deleted it. Greg is over here going,
wise.
"Oh my gosh, how does the guy stay married?" That's a good question, Greg. But so many things we joke about. There's a nugget of truth, right?
Yeah.
And there's maybe a little bitterness there, because I remember sitting around that very table many times with my kids, and on at least 2 or 3 times a week we were having dinner. Now that's 2 or 3 times a year.
Yeah. So here was one, not trying to be funny, several years ago. I think it was for my son Aiden's 5th or 6th birthday. And I asked him what he wanted for dinner. And he said, well, do you remember when we used to sit at the table and eat dinner? Talk about breaking my heart. His birthday is the end of July. And so I'm a kids minister. Summers are busy. Yeah. But that was what he wanted more than anything else. He didn't care about ordering pizza for his birthday or whatever. He just wanted like that ordinary routine of sitting around our table. Yeah. Do you remember when we used to do that?
Yeah. I think so. And I think we are creatures of habit. I think there's something healthy about getting into a rhythm and all those things. And so we don't want to put that down, but I do want to warn, like what you define as ordinary, is that something that has become an idol? Or at times what we find is we've allowed our lives to not have any of the ordinary, and we've embraced chaos. And either way, I see potential for there being pulling us away from faithfulness.
Absolutely. So let's look at the difference between the cultural ideas of impact, like how we are impacting the world, but then also biblical faithfulness. And so, sometimes we want to make an impact, all of that, maybe we want to make a name for ourselves or be an influencer or whatever, or just be an influence to those around us. But how we can get caught up in that versus just being biblically faithful.
You use the word influencer, and that's a relatively recent term.
Sure.
That wasn't a term people were talking about even, I don't even think 10 years ago, but certainly not 20 years ago. And it's funny to me that I've noticed, like, when social media started happening in a big way, Facebook is what I remember first, of course, and you had all these people who, would take pictures of their meals. This is, I fixed this meal tonight. And that, I don't see that as much as you used to.
Right.
But it was almost like people were trying to, like, you think about it, somebody in Hollywood, oh, I wonder where they're going on vacation, or, oh, I wonder what their day looks like. And it was like people were trying to make themselves famous, or, and my thing was I really don't care what you're having for dinner. Sorry. And then this influencer idea, people who haven't done anything in their life, they've not accomplished anything, and yet they have a certain style, or, as my children would say, aesthetic.
Aesthetic, yes.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys don't even know what the word means. I hope my kids do know, if they don't know. But yeah, this whole idea of an aesthetic, they don't really contribute anything, but I don't know. It's the way it's always been, the empty suit idea. What Phil Collins sang that song, I Can't Sing, I Can't Dance. It was about, like, TV personalities. It's an interesting, it's from the MTV era or whatever. I can remember that. But it was the whole idea of just someone who doesn't have any real talent. They just look good. Yeah. And so that's from the 80s. So obviously the concept was there. We just didn't call it an influencer.
Sure.
But at the same time, is it wrong? And I think that's the question you're asking as a Christian, to want to make an imprint. And in fact, the word character, as I understand it in the New Testament, the word for character is actually, that's what it means. It means an imprint. Okay. So the way you live your life makes an impression on people. And if I think I'm right here, the wax seal, if you can think that, it leaves the impression. So all of us in life, our character, the way we live our lives, the way we carry ourselves, we're all influencers. Yeah. And we're putting our imprint. And yes, most of us are ordinary. So most people are not going to have a huge imprint. But if you imprint godliness on a child or two or three and your grandkids, what a thing, what a big deal. As a pastor or a children's minister, when we're in positions of ministry and influence, now all of a sudden we have the potential to imprint hundreds, thousands, maybe. Yeah. But we need to always be thinking in terms of how that imprint could be negative, that we may be allowing some of our sinful characteristics to imprint on others. And, sometimes we talk about our kids and, oh my goodness, they got that from you, Jenny. Of course, all the bad stuff I always want to blame on my wife. But she's having none of that, obviously. But yeah, we know that we can also imprint negatively. And so faithfulness, again, we'll come back to faithfulness and making sure that the imprint, the influence, the icon that we leave behind is one that's positive. Yeah.
So then thinking through, we talked about this like in the spotlight, but what about just doing the right thing when no one's watching? That's something I feel like integrity. I talk to my kids about that. Daily. We're just talking about integrity. And so we want to make sure we're being faithful when no one's watching. We're not trying to be in the spotlight. We're, maybe quietly, parenting in our own home or, teaching Sunday school, all those things that are important. But the integrity of doing the right thing when no one is watching.
Well, the sad reality in this world today is that there's very few moments when someone isn't watching. I mean,
that's true.
The camera's always on,
true.
you know, and so we need to be careful. I tell the story every once in a while that back when I was pastoring in DeSoto, I've been running and jogging for many, many years now. And Main Street in DeSoto is the only flat stretch where you can actually run and not be uphill or downhill in a major way. So I would run up and down Main Street. I would start at my street and go all the way to the end and then come back. And so it's a couple miles. And, you know, I'm not a great runner. And some days I feel good and some days I don't feel good. Well, it was one of those days I wasn't feeling good. And I must have had a grimace on my face. And a church member saw me and literally the next day sent me a text or email. I can't remember. It's probably an email because it's so long ago. And said, hey, look, you're our pastor and I love you, but if you're going to be in public, you need to not be like grimacing and
yikes.
You there was no smile on your face and you just looked really, you know, and I emailed back and I said, have you ever ran? You know, it hurts sometimes. Like I was in pain. Now,
wow,
that is, so you want to be a pastor? It's fun. Let me tell you, it's fun. And it's true. Like even at Walmart and stuff like that. I mean, you can't, even though I'm in a bad mood 9 out of 10 times in Walmart, I have to be careful because people are watching.
Yeah.
And so integrity is not just, you know, ethically, you know, doing good things, but I think we have to be, if we're asking people to have the joy of the Lord and to be kind, we need to make sure we're doing the best we can, even in hard situations. And though my friend was not being very charitable with me, there was a lesson to be learned there that as a public figure, as someone who is known in a community, every single action or inaction is magnified.
Yeah, absolutely.
And fair or not fair, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
That's just reality. And so we all need to understand, like at your work, if people know you as a believer, just know that magnifies the responsibility of not just what you say, but even your facial expressions and how you handle the good and the bad in your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think back, I was actually just pulling up my notes from this. Back in, I think September, maybe, I spoke at Kindred Moms, and our theme this year has been wholehearted. Everything, you know, do it for the Lord. But I had done a whole thing on wholehearted worship in the everyday. And, you know, sometimes as a mom, those are those mundane tasks that we can use to worship. And so, you know, thinking through things like folding laundry and praying for the kiddos that you're folding their little, you know, socks and shirts and stuff. Yeah. You know, when we, even just being thankful in those things, but using that, listen to worship music while you're doing those mundane things of our ordinary lives. Those are things that have to be done that we can turn it into worship and spiritual growth.
So believe it or not, there was a book written on this.
Okay.
And it was written by a French monk.
Okay.
I think 17th century. And that, again, sounds nerdy, but this is a book everybody should know. It's called Practicing the Presence. It's by Brother Lawrence.
Okay.
If you go on Amazon, and we'll put a link to.
He's giving it the thumbs up over there. He agrees.
It's a very short book, but the famous line from that short book is that his secret to spiritual success was learning how to praise the Lord as he mopped the floors and washed the dishes in the kitchen. So what you just said is Brother Lawrence. You literally have that same concept. So, you know, you can say those are mundane tasks, and they are. But the glory of the Lord is something that we need to understand. We should intersect with the glory of the Lord in those mundane things as much as in the magnificent moments of worship, where we think back to Christmas and, you know, those, candlelight service in your silent night. And, you know, how many times have you done that? But how many times is that it's awesome. Or singing the doxology after the Lord's Supper. How many times have you done that? But man, it can just emotionally, it's magnificent. It's beautiful. Yeah. Or here at Ridgecrest, so often in the first or second service, there'll be a song and the congregation is singing, the orchestra's playing, the choir. Man, it is magnificent. Man, the Lord was there. But I think we need to start looking for him in these unexpected places. That is the real secret of spiritual beauty, I think.
Yeah. And I think there's so many other opportunities for that. I often think of it from a parenting or even kids ministry perspective, but, using seasons of life, parenting, marriage, but singleness, work, going to school, coming to church prepared to worship.
Yep.
But we have to look for those things from the beginning. We can't just at the end of our day necessarily think back and go, okay, how did I see this? But to go in with that expectant, ready to worship.
So when I was younger, I remember Jenny and I, back in 1999, we bought a Jeep Grand Cherokee, which I thought was really cool. It was
So you've been a Jeep guy for a long time.
I have. I don't understand that because I'm more of a Chevy GMC guy, but I've owned a bunch of Jeeps. But I thought that was the coolest SUV. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was just the coolest car. It was a red car and red and gray. It's a piece of junk. But anyway, I remember though noticing that once I owned that car, as I was driving down the road, I would see every
absolutely
Grand Cherokee.
Yes.
So the question is, were there more Grand Cherokees on the road, or was it a matter of perspective?
Sure.
So what I would say is that what you're looking for in life, you have a tendency of finding it.
Yes.
If you're looking for negativity, there's plenty of it out there. You'll see it more clearly. If you're looking for evidences of grace and the presence of Jesus, He's all around you.
Yeah.
It's a matter of perspective. Like, why would I have had a reason to look for Jeeps until I owned one? Well, if I know Jesus, if I say I know Him and I believe that He is full of love and grace and truth and that He's omniscient and everywhere, well, I need to start looking for Him, right? So that's what I would say, is that faithfulness sometimes is about perspective and what you're looking for. And I want to tell you, in the church, this is maybe slightly off topic, but one of the things that's really been hard for me for the last 30 years is how negative people are about their church. And I've been negative about it too. So I've been in this camp as well. And being the leader of a church, I know the problems I would think is good or better than anybody. But here at Ridgecrest, we're surrounded by a lot of great churches. And people come to me all the time and tell us, well, man, Ridgecrest is messed up. And I always have to say, yeah, it is, because every other church is too. And it's messed up because you're in it. And that's me too, all of us.
Right,
the problem is you, and the problem is me, the problem is us. But once again, why? I had somebody come in my office a few years ago here at Ridgecrest and just literally had a list of 10 things that they thought Ridgecrest was just doing terribly. And I think they were being unfair in some ways. But at the end of the day, that's what they were looking for. That they had decided, down, whether they knew it or not, subconsciously, they had decided they were leaving Ridgecrest. And so they wanted to come and tell me, they wanted to justify why they wanted to leave. And so I had another person come in just a year ago, and they were not members of the church, didn't want to be members of the church, but there were some leadership initiatives we were trying to do, some church planning things we were trying to do in the community. And this person didn't like what we were going to do. So he wanted to come in and make sure I knew all the things wrong with our church. So he came in and set up an appointment to tell me how much he hated Ridgecrest.
Yikes.
Now, I'm giving some extreme examples.
Sure.
These things don't happen very often. So guys at home, gals at home, don't think. But what I've noticed is that people, when they get in that frame of mind, it doesn't matter what you're doing well. They can't see it.
Yeah.
They won't see it. They only want to see what they want to see. And I just want to say, we all have that tendency.
Right. I was just thinking of a situation that I've been so guilty of that.
I'm telling you, especially when it's people. Like, let's say there's a person in your life that just isn't evil. They're just different than you, and they rub you the wrong way. Like, you guys are never going to be best friends. But because of the difference, you can't see any good in them.
Yeah.
The devil wants you only to see the things that are causing friction. Acknowledge that. Yeah. So I want to just say, like, those examples I was giving, I understand why those people were doing that, because I do the same thing. I am no better. So I'm not being critical of them. I'm just saying, my wife and I have this conversation all the time. Like, we have to watch it. Like, we have people saying these things to us, and occasionally, because of who we are, we have to take the brunt of that. And we start complaining about the people who are complaining. And so now we have a vicious circle of complaint.
Yeah.
And I keep telling people, look for Christ, look for ways to be kind, look for ways to join in community, look for ways to do positive things. Because if you're looking for negative, you will always find it. The devil will give you 20/20 vision on the bad stuff. Only the Spirit of God can open blind eyes to see the blessed things. And I would say, what was it? Is Book of Lamentations? No, it's not right. One of the Old Testament prophets, don't despise a day of small things. We'd have to look up that reference. But I think maybe it's Micah. I don't know. Colby, figure this out. We don't want to despise a day of small things. Like there's a lot of little things. Look for where God is working. If in every day you can find just a tiny little atom or two of grace where God is at work. And focus your eyes on that. It'll be good for your health.
Yeah. And so that's
Zechariah 4:10. Why in the world could I not remember Zechariah? Pastor. I'm terrible. I should have it all memorized.
Another little complaint there. There we go.
Yeah. Just send them to file 13. Send them straight to me.
So I think this next little spot, when faithfulness feels discouraging, and we're kind of just talking about that. Yep. But we will go through seasons when faithfulness feels unnoticed or fruitless. And so what's your encouragement for that?
Yeah. Why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Are you being faithful to be seen?
Yeah.
So
it's another conversation I keep having with my children.
Hello, Pharisees. You want to go in the corner and beat your breast and let everybody know how great a Christian you are? That's not Christian. Faithfulness is its own reward, and I think that when I look back at some of the key things people have told me in ministry over the years, when it comes to serving the Lord, this is true for a pastor or anybody in the pew. What are the most important things? So a professor told me one time in ministry, tenure in prayer. So let's apply that to the church member. If we really want to make a difference for Jesus, we are going to invest over the long haul in our church.
Yeah.
So go to church, find a church you love, and love it for the rest of your life. And we talk a lot in Springfield, and I want to be careful here. I don't want to be super negative because I know there are times when we have to move for family reasons and for financial reasons or jobs and all kinds of things. Sin happens in the church. I understand. But I want to encourage people today in this culture, find a church and be faithful to it the rest of your life.
Yes.
Don't shop churches like you shop for a good deal on a TV, at Super Bowl time. Yeah. Come on. The church is more precious than that. Stick with it and be faithful. And in prayer, faithfulness is not just about, I sometimes brag, and I shouldn't brag, but I've been able to preach for 3 decades and haven't missed many Sundays over the years, and I've been consistent and everything. But really, if I'm honest, I've not been consistent like that in my prayer life. I think I have the last 15 or 20 years, but I've been doing this for 31. So for the first 10 years of ministry, I was faithfully preaching every week, but I wasn't faithfully praying every day. So it's so easy to get caught up into thinking that faithfulness is something we do. Yeah. But tenure is just sticking with it, and prayer is sticking with Jesus. Yeah. And those, I think, are the most important things in terms of faithfulness to God.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I was thinking with the feeling unnoticed, maybe even feeling taken advantage of.
Oh yeah.
Where that maybe be a little different than just being unnoticed, but sometimes we do, and then it more is just expected of us maybe. And that's hard, but we have to remember really who we are doing it for.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that sense of justice that we bring, we think if I'm doing good things, God's going to give me good blessings, and eternally He will. But there are times when we do our work faithfully, and someone else comes in and just for a minute, they kind of take all the glory, right? And in ministry, we see that a lot. We'll see people who are faithful servants of the Lord for 20, 30 years in a church, and no one pays any attention to them. And then a new guy moves into town, he's successful for 3 months, and everybody thinks he's got it figured out. Yeah. And so we put all of our emphasis on the person who is successful. And yet, is that success? Because my question is, okay, they were successful for maybe 3 months to 3 years, but what's going to be like in 30 years? Whereas the church where there's a faithful servant of God serving for 30 years, there's going to be long-term generational impact there, right? So I think that even part of this equation that we have to factor in is what is success? What is success and faithfulness? Is it measured? Is there any way to even measure it?
Right.
Maybe not in this world.
Sure. Yeah. And so, I have this question for us to just kind of as a challenge, but where might God be calling you to stay faithful, not spectacular? And as someone who has a loud personality, who likes to change things up, do things big, I have to ask myself that often, even especially, we've talked a lot about like busyness and events and stuff like that, but especially when it comes to a big event, I want to do it over the top, and I like to, be big and loud and all of the things. And so where does my faithfulness come and play in all of that and the event planning? But I think that's true. And, we've talked about all of these ordinary things. Where is God calling us to abide, to be faithful, rather than trying to be over the top maybe?
Yeah, I do believe that in ministry, we get into ministry because we want to be impactful. Impactful means bigger, bigger churches, more people, more of a budget, all those things. And I think it's a trap. Yeah. It is, because it's kind of like the principle of diminishing returns. What we did is big.
Yep.
Now, 1 year from now, we got to go bigger. And it just, you look at a lot of what churches are doing today, they've got to the point where it's just not only absurd, sometimes it's obscene. And it really is a hard thing to watch, to see people who, they mean well, they're trying to reach people, but they're compromising sanity. I mean, it's not just biblical. I mean, some of the things we've seen, like, I'm sorry, if you have to drive a tank through the middle of a building to get people's attention, you may have gone too far. Right. I mean, just maybe. And I know that has some local ramifications, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm trying to be open-minded here. I love tanks. I think they're fantastic. I'm not sure a weapon of war and destruction is the best way to really emphasize biblical manhood. That's my take on it. I think I have the right to that opinion. But it just kind of shows like that principle of how far can we take it? And, I just think, Pastor Wayne and I were talking about this the other day. He was telling me about this sermon he watched where, it was like a dramatic retelling of kind of Judgment Day. And he was just telling me how much it touched him that in heaven, I think we're going to find out that those little grandmas who prayed faithfully for 50 years, they're going to be in the front of the line. And all these preachers who drove tanks through the middle of services, they're going to be at the end of the line. And I feel like that I'll be one of those at the end of the line. That so much of the glory that I have had in this world is robbed me of something bigger and better in the next. And so I would say this, that just keep in mind that the things that you think nobody sees, God sees it all. Yeah. And when he's handing out crowns and glory, it's not going to be the how big or how broad the scope was. I think it's all going to boil down to day after day, hour after hour. How much were you seeking Jesus?
Absolutely. And I just, to finish this, I think about this song we sang at Bible school this past summer of God's faithfulness. He's faithful in the big things. He's faithful in the small. We can model after that, but to seek to be more like him in everything we do.
Amen.
Thank you again for joining us today. We'll see you next time on Hey Listen.